All right, mates, welcome back to the channel. J.O. Scott Fishing and Eats Baitmaker Studio series. We are going to start here in the October, November, December period of talking about the Baitmaker Studio. And one of the fundamental parts of the Baitmaker Studio is obviously your supplies. And as we roll out, hopefully it is, this part of being in development of finding a space, a leased space for a Baitmaker Studio. For a studio for bait makers to actually come and be able to learn from other bait makers, as well as be able to procure baits that are made by custom bait makers. So almost like a tackle shop for custom bait makers. So it's kind of really interesting as we continue to grapple with the plan of that, the business plan, the location prospects. And the marketing for all of that as part of the overall umbrella company. But one of the ones I want to focus on is a lot of times we get our supplies from various producers. Okay. And so I get messages all the time. It's like, where can I, where did you get that blank from? Where did you get, where can I get eyes from? Where can I get, everyone pretty much will go to a tackle supply company like Fish USA or Tackle Warehouse and buy hooks, right? They don't have to do that. But a lot of people do. They're doing lures, right? And then they'll go to like a Michaels or like a Spray Gunner or like, whatever to get their Createx, right? Colors, Wicked, whatever, right? All these things. But where do you go to get your blanks? A lot of people buy them on Amazon. A lot of people buy them on Facebook. A lot of people, there's so many different pieces of the puzzle here for people. And it gets daunting for a lot of people. And most of the messages that send around any of the baits that I work with or the custom baits that I highlight in the videos, are always like, well, what blank is that? Like that looks a lot like Mega Bass. That looks a lot like an S-Crank. That looks a lot like a Bandit, right? And so, or a KVD, right? And so you get your head around, okay, they're blanks, right? And so one of the suppliers you can use for blanks is LureBuild, okay? And you can follow Whitney Thompson. You can find Whitney Thompson, I believe, on Facebook. And he primarily uses LureBuild Blanks, and you can watch him paint those blanks. There are other on TikTok. There are a lot of guys on TikTok that are now airbrushing live. Okay, Righteous Tackle, Little Frishies. Their Facebook, Northwoods Lures. There's so many, man. Real Threat. There's just so many out. David Green. I can't tell you that they only use LureBuild. I can't tell you, you know what I'm saying? Everyone uses kind of a mix of all different places, but I can tell you that I can tell you that most people got, check out LureBuild.com. They're also on Facebook.com/ Origin Tackle. Okay, Origin Tackle. And you can find them out. And so when you're looking at this stuff, understand a lot of people, price is important and prices are going to go up, and they've been going up. So you got to understand that and factor in, especially if you're out there and you're like, man, I don't want to see $12 or $15 for a custom paint. But, well, the supplies are now going up. Expect your cereal baits to go up from $5.79 to $5.99, $8.49 to $8.99, right? I don't think they'll crack that next full dollar level. Those ones that are like $11.99, like it's tough to get above that threshold, right? But you could see it because they're feeling this economy. And so if you go on LureBuild.com, obviously you got a free shipping over $115 still. Just click on shop. It'll break down what you have here in terms of your blanks that you can use, and they run the gamut. Not all of them are as in depth as some. Okay, some may only do like 3 or 4 blanks or 5. That's the process of like Amazon. You can find someone on Amazon that's got you some cheap blanks, and all they're doing is like 1 or 2 blanks, right? They don't have the depth of a lot of the blanks, and a lot of these blanks are made by the seller. Okay. As well, which is a little bit different than a lot of guys that are selling on Amazon that are just buying blanks from China and then listing them and selling them in package deals and, on a quantity basis or something like that. So you can go in here. Let's check out crankbaits. Obviously, big time. Why is crankbaits popular right now? Because you want to get your crankbaits ready for spring. So you want to have your custom bait makers or yourself you begin to start your crawl patterns. You begin to start your spring patterns now, right? You should have been doing your jerk baits in the early summer for fall. That's what I've been. That's how I've accumulated. If you notice, I've staggered my videos in terms of what I'm getting. I'm starting now. I just got some awesome spooks from Willamette because I'm preparing for spring on the tidal Potomac. Okay, so I want my frog patterns in a spook form, popper form. Okay, I'm already preparing for that. You want to get those done in the fall for the spring. You want to stay one season ahead when you're doing custom bait yourself, for yourself, okay? You don't want to be doing that custom bait right in the middle of spring spawn, right? Okay, for spawn. You want to start thinking about it right now. So you got an opportunity here. Crankbait Blanks, you got them all, man. All the different patterns. See the different nuance in the actual blank. You can have pattern sets that you can use different colors on to really make those things pop. You've got your solid, smooth surface, which I prefer for shad patterns that I can paint up. And you've got them in multi-pack too, as well as individuals, individual blank. If you only want to do a one-off, for example, it's really good to like get one of those, like I had some people ask me about getting a rat blank. I directed them to some guys for that, and it's just a one. They want to try it one time and see how it actually all worked out. You could do that as opposed to having to buy like 10, 12, 25 at a time. And you can see here the differences, like the wart, okay? Predominantly well-known, crank shad, reefer, the different materials too as well, with the crankbaits. And you'll find there's just about everything that you can think of, in terms of the size. You want a 1.5, a 2.5. You want that bent, offset, Lexan hook. You want that diver. Do you want that square bill, small square bill? Do you want that 110 jerk bait, shallow diver, or a deeper bill? That's how you can see the offerings of the different depths that they have. And this is when I tell mates, like, what I think is a lot different from serial manufacturers is I could go 2.32, 2.33. Okay? Paint them all the same color pattern. Okay? For different depths, different presentations, but the same match the hatch forge pattern, crawl pattern, shad pattern, darter pattern, goby pattern, whatever your pattern is you have. Predominantly here in the Mid-Atlantic, lakes are perch and bluegill patterns. Some of them may have some shad, the bigger ones. Okay, and then you also have to figure out where you've also got blueback and shad that have been introduced into bigger size reservoirs in the Mid-Atlantic region. And then in your river systems, you've got minnows, you've got darters, you've got shad and herring in the tidal, you've got craw, okay, and along those lines, shiner, you got along those lines. So that should be your coloration patterns. And then you would just go with size. I can't stress this enough. When you're looking at these blanks, I recommend that you go with two sizes for your thought. The same, like if I want to do a shiner pattern, you guys have seen a lot of my shiner cranks. I'm going to go real small shiner, and then I'm going to go about a half an inch to maybe an inch bigger. And the reason why you do that is the forge size changes throughout the year, but your color is already matched perfect, right? Like right now, the bait fish are small. It's late fall, so I'm throwing a 1.5, I'm throwing a real small. You guys saw my last video I did with a depth charger, a small crawl that's like the size of less than a quarter. Okay, because the crawls are, it's just what's happening. Okay, the bigger crawls are gone, either underground or they've already been eaten. All right, same with the minnows, the darters, the sculpin, the shiners. It's just that time of year; they're starting to die off. But early spring, early summer, they're going to be bigger. You're going to want to have a bigger size profile of the same pattern. So that's what you want to look for. So you get your river minnow there. And then you can go through these and just pick out exactly the size that matches your river or your lake or impoundment. And that's the thing. You can't really, sometimes there's generic sizes for mass production baits at the big box stores that are supposed to be okay for everywhere. but not really dialed in specific maybe to your lake or river. And this is where you want to look for if you want to do your own baits. Or again, something that I've done, because I'm telling you, there are so many more people that are just incredibly talented when it comes to airbrushing. Far back, I'd love just to get down there and freaking and paint baits and pour soft plastics. Okay, it's like an escape for me. It's just a lot of fun. I'm by no means an expert or a master at this. There are literally hundreds of people like that are masters at this. And so what I'll do sometimes is I'll find this, like I like this flow rider, right? I'll buy a dozen flow riders. I'll send them to 2 different bait makers, right? And have them create something for me, right? Because based on their talent level, they're used to working with swim baits or flow riders or bigger bait formats, maybe for muskie or whatever that I'm not really familiar with. I'm used to doing crankbaits and jerk baits. That's pretty much what I paint. With a couple other jointed stuff in there, or repaints some old Big O's. You guys have seen that on my page. So I'm repainting old serial manufactured baits from back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s that I'll pick up at a yard sale that someone's selling like 25 of them for like $2. Okay. And I'll just repaint them. Take the hooks off, replace the hooks, repaint them. Love to do that. That's like that's like, like one of the coolest things ever is to go to a yard sale and get basically $300 worth of baits for like $5, $5 or $10, and come back and then touch them up, repaint them completely, or find that one gem. I found at a yard sale last year. I found an old bait from the 70s worth $230, and I got it for like $4. They didn't know what they had. It was in a group of baits from an old timer, wooden baits and stuff like that, and balsa baits, and the people didn't know what they had. I didn't really know what they had. It was like a crapshoot of baits. I think it was like 15 or 16 baits all jumbled up in a bag. I was like, all right, I'll take it for it. So yeah, and then that's an easy way to do that. And you can see, but check out LureBuild. You've got everything here too on your right. For your finish, KBS, a popular one. Eyes especially are important. When you're doing some of these things. Some guys like to paint their eyes. Some guys like to use eyes. For me, I'm not really, other than the red eye sometimes, I'm not sold yet on whether that is a predominant factor at a strike or not. Because I've gotten strikes on baits that have no eyes at all. It's just basically dark shadows of black, for crawl, for example. Who like things are little peaty things anyway, right? Like, and I've had baits that that there's just a dark area. It's not like an eye. So sometimes I think some of the eyes are part of what we think a bait looks, how it looks, how cool it looks. Look at the different eyes, man, from like reptilian eyes, like to for the frogs, to like amphibians, to like, and so a lot of that is all up to, subjective, for sure. Then you also have your stencils tools and airbrush, obviously, for LureBuild that you can get. You can also do spray gunner, for stencils and paint. That's another great site. If you're creating a studio at home, stencils are a big thing. You can create your own. You certainly don't need to drop a lot of money on stencils if you don't want, but like $12 gets you pretty much like the bait to get you started. I mean, $12. It gets you started. You're going to keep using this. And then what I know a lot of people do is a lot of people will go ahead and get this when they get it, and they'll make additional ones themselves from the pattern on poster board or whatever, so they have like an inventory of them going forward. So you can stretch that $12 for sure. And you'll find them all from all the different patterns: perch, crappie, crawl. Your stencils that you'll use. There's a perfect crawl right there. Basic crawl that you can get in for your outline. Tiger, the old fire tiger pattern, probably one of the most popular still, especially down in the South. One of the things now is custom, like kind of like gift lures, right? Like you've seen the keychains a lot of guys have now. There's no hooks on it. It's basically they're pretty cool. So a crank custom design for, your buddy, your dad, your brother, anglers in your trail series for like Angle of the Year or whatever. They get a custom crankbait keychain. That stuff's really really cool. You got Cranks Pro. It's doing cigars out of like spooks. They're like patterned like cigars in a cigar box. Awesome. I mean, there's so many things that you can look at, that you could potentially do if this is something that interests you. And that's really what we're looking at. Like, we want to expand the whole thing of bringing a lot of bait makers together in these live streams on TikTok. Shortly, a lot of them are going on now where you can get in there, and there'll be 3 or 4 of them at a time on the same live stream, and they'll make a custom baits for each other or for people in the chat. It's really, really, really cool. And so just going to bring that mainstream a little bit so people understand and bring people into a lot of the eye. And I have can do that with having a pretty large, ish following on YouTube, to bring that all together between anglers and bait makers and custom bait makers, and then be able to have a clearinghouse, or we've talked about a bait makers, co-op. So it's a cooperative where bait makers can get supplies centrally with these companies that are supporting the Baitmaker studio. Okay. And then they've got a reliable place at a reasonable price because the prices have been negotiated for bulk purchasing. That's what a co-op does. You see that in agriculture. Okay. You see that everywhere, right? With cooperative agreements, power generation, right? For customers. So that's kind of like that where we're at. So I want you guys to check out LureBuild. Is the first in the Baitmaker Studio supply series that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Spray Gunner. We're going to talk about Sugar Tip. We're going to talk about a bunch of the other ones that are kind of like there's some big ones, guys, that people are all familiar with. So we'll get with those last. Okay, we're going to start with the smaller suppliers that you can build a relationship with, reach out to on Facebook or Instagram. Get an order in, look at the quality of it. Okay, some of these guys are making their own blanks. Okay, not everybody does that, so you got to ask those questions. But it's certainly a really, really, really cool. Look at this big game blanks. Okay, they got everything, man. Like, so it's like, you've seen the guys throwing those big, this time of year, throwing those big freaking swim baits. Okay, that you're just like, what? And that's where you can get the blanks for, that are just bigger, that are 5, 7, 8, 12 inches. Right? 6 inches right here, 10-inch super G. Okay, see? I mean, it's just awesome stuff that even if you just want to have it do it as a gift for somebody, right? It's something that people are just going to be like talking about. And that's part of it too. It's art, but it's also functional art, for the most part, is what I say in terms of airbrushing these crankbaits and jerkbaits. You want them to look as beautiful as possible and pop and have that clear coat and have that whatever. But at the end of the day, you still want them to catch fish, mates, because that's what it's all about. But check these guys out. LureBuild. They've got the lipless blanks that I've used in the past. Guys have done baits for me as well as small crankbaits from LureBuild. So you've got that. You're gonna want some lipless cranks for the spring, mates. You're gonna want it when that grass comes back. And so get on it now. Get your lipless crankbaits now in the fall, so you have them maybe during the wintertime when you're snowed in and you're watching football. That's what I do. When you're watching football or you're watching sports, for me, I'm going to be watching the World Cup coming up here November 20th. During the entire World Cup, I will probably be down freaking watching the games, doing my lures for next season as well as for the custom bait box. That's just kind of how I have my mindset planned. So I'm starting to look and get everything in, contacts made, making sure that the orders are going to be there for November, making sure they've got supply of what they got. What do they have in short supply? So I can go ahead and get it now if they're running low, because they don't know when they're going to get their shipment in. All these things come into play, which is why we want to have that Baitmaker studio. Like, that's what we really want to get towards after we get through the online and grow the YouTube channel and bring Baitmakers together, establish a relationship with Baitmakers so they can have a place to like have all their lures on the wall. and like a tackle shop format for people to stop in, stop by, ask questions, ship out. They won't have to deal with shipping individually every other day. The lures can be at the Baitmaker studio, and they could call and be like, "Hey, I need these lures shipped to XYZ. Take care of that." Just streamline that whole process for the Baitmakers community. Is if I'm not fishing, that's where my mind is and where I'm working. All right, mates, check out LureBuild.com. You can find them again on Facebook, but just check out LureBuild.com and start there. And then stay tuned. I'm going to create a playlist for this series. I know people have asked me to do that before, and I just haven't gotten around to it, to consolidate all my videos on my channel. But I'm definitely going to create a Baitmaker Studio playlist with all of the manufacturers, and then also a Baitmaker playlist of all the actual bait makers that I focus on the channel. All right, mates. Hope everybody has a great day. I'll see you on the other side.